All right, so we are back here for a third part. My dad is going to have a lot of content to listen to this week.
Hello, Renee. Good to see you, or good to be heard by you.
Yeah, so we are here with the dream match of all dream matches. As we mentioned at the start or the end of last episode, they got the final countdown for Danielson. I went crazy. You know, they went all in on the presentation of this match. And
you said all in.
Yeah, and you know, similar to a lot of other matches that have happened, off the top of my head that I can think of, they did it for Danielson and Omega. They did it for the 4-way match for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship match last year. The crowd erupts in "This is awesome" chants, you know, before they even lock up or anything. They're just in their corners staring off. Yeah, so already there's this energy to it. There's this aura to it, you know. But what did you think of this match, sir? Because I'm feeling a certain way about it.
Okay, so here's how I'm feeling, right? It's happening. We're here. This is awesome. They start to lock up. And it occurs to me pretty quickly into the match. You called it the dream matches to end all dream matches, and I'm going to push your thinking there because, again, this isn't necessarily a match I would have come up with because I realize they fight relatively different styles, and that Okada is not world renowned for his mat-based shenanigans, right? I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Oh, no, I'm going to be waiting for, like, that tit for tat that, like, you know, I'm waiting for Zack Sabre Jr. to show up and, you know, steal his show with Danielson. But this is a different match, right? He's fighting John Cena.
Yeah, and I think that was one of my things, too. Now, I will say, this was definitely a big dream match solely because of, you know, like how I mentioned, the aura around it. But I definitely agree with you. In terms of stylistically, though, I know Danielson can change up with his opponents. This was definitely one I was going into where I was like, I'm going to be, like, more open about it to see, like, how he decides to approach this match. Because, you know, we saw last year, wait, was it last year? No, I think it was 2021 where he had that match with Suzuki, you know, on that random Rampage buy-in, you know?
Uh-huh.
So it's like, I have that match in mind.
Where they went, like, chop for kick, remember?
Yeah. So I'm like, thinking
it's funny you
that.
should say that Danielson can change it up depending on his opponent. You know who can't do that? Kazuchika Okada, who's really got one playlist that he goes to when it comes to a match.
Yeah, and especially I think the biggest thing that I was like also having to remind myself of is like, it's not that I had to like remind myself, but I was like, this is gonna be a very different match, especially than that that Ospreay Omega match from earlier in the night, you know. And I think that's something they didn't think of when they did the match placement. You know, I know hindsight is 20/20, but stylistically, I think a lot of people, I mean, they say it now, but like a lot of people definitely thought Ospreay Omega was gonna end the night. You know.
And Danielson says in the scrum that he wishes they had as well. They were like, "How do you feel? You know, how did you feel knowing you were going to have to follow that?" And he goes, "I told Tony, don't let me, you know, or don't make us follow that."
Yeah.
One thing Okada's got going for him, right, that Danielson's going to need to figure out is, my man can take a punch, he can take a chop, and he's about a foot taller than Danielson, right? So I love like those exchanges where Okada is just like not fazed by some of that striking offense, which probably leads Danielson to go for his more, you know, wizard action with the holds and the submissions.
Yeah. But so, you know, that I will mention this match, if it went longer than I thought it did, and maybe I only felt that way because of what ends up happening, but according to Wikipedia, this match went almost 27 minutes or 28 minutes, and it didn't feel like that to me, which was kind of weird.
You know, I always think about that, right, when I hear that a match went long that didn't feel it, but then you think about this. They took that match outside, right? Like,
yeah.
It put a lot of literal ground, right? And Oh, we see a big old spot on that ramp.
Yeah.
We see a tombstone pile driver into the ramp, and the commentary are like, and Okada took a big old step back, so he makes sure to hit steel.
Yeah. I will say the one part that really sort of, like, I guess if you want to say confused me a bit, it was kind of odd seeing, like, Danielson and Okada do, like, the barricade spots that they did, like, throwing another guy into the crowd and then Okada diving at Danielson in the crowd. Like, I was like, I feel like that's not something I expected from this match. You know, like, it felt like an odd choice, but I was like, hey, maybe it works to hype up the crowd and, like, start speeding up the match a bit.
It's something you didn't expect. I certainly didn't expect, but it sounds like Kevin Kelly did.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, he's going to clear that barricade. He's going to hit him. Yeah.
I was like,
Okada. That was such a good spot.
Yeah, I was so confused because I was like, Okada clearing the barricade. I don't know if I could really ever remember, like, seeing a moment like that. Maybe it happened more than I remember it, but I was like, that's such a, like, odd spot, but I welcome it, you know, it looked pretty good.
It did.
And then we get the spot that really I gotta mention, because it's a match between these two guys that they've been hyping up, I like how much they were building up the fact that, like, each man trying to hit their finisher, you know? Like, Okada keep trying to hit the Rainmaker.
Yes.
Danielson kept trying to hit the flying knee and all that, you know? And, but we get to the sort of turning point. After that tombstone pile driver on the ramp, we get the spot that really changed the whole match, that, in my opinion, it felt like it cut it. Because even though it didn't feel like it was going that long, at least from my memory, it really felt like it cut it, like, in the middle of the second act of the match and forced it to go straight into the finish. Because this is where a lot of people are looking at, is where, like, things sort of, quote-unquote, went wrong. We get Okada hitting an elbow drop, and from there, Danielson doesn't use his, I think it was his left arm or his right arm.
His right.
Yeah, his right arm. There was that, and we'll get to the reason of what happens. But then, you get to this real awkward spot that I've seen a lot of people say they felt took the crowd out of it and thus kind of messed up the energy with the match. And that is, Danielson decides, how do you want to spice this match up? Oh, I'm just going to pretend that I'm having seizures and convulsing in the middle of the ring, and they're going to call the doctor to check on him. And I'm just like, I remember I sat there watching. I'm like, don't tell me we're watching this live. But then you get Okada coming over and be like, no, he's fine. Move out the way. And the doctor just complies. The doctor's like, okay, Okada, you know best.
It was weird. And I'll agree with you and the people you cite that it really kind of, like, took me out of it as well. And Jack, I'm on high alert. We haven't talked about all of the ref nonsense because I wanted to fit as much as I could into 2 episodes. But here's a crash course into all the ref nonsense that, like, I'm carrying at this moment. Besides that first MJF match where that Bryce guy I thought was going to turn heel on Tanahashi, you had the other ref tell Don Callis he's removed from ringside, but then Don Callis comes back, and you're like,
yeah.
Is this going to lead to something? It doesn't, but I'm worried you're going to ruin this match. Aubrey, what's her name? Aubrey
Edwards?
She refs the Jericho match, and it got me thinking, where's she been all night, and how did she get away with only doing one match? And I wish she was a part of more matches, because these guys, Rick Knox losing total control of the 10-man match, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, something needs to change about this ref system. And here we are, main event, dream match. And here's Bryce again. I hated to see him in the intros. But he's going to tell Okada, hold on, he's seething.
Yeah, and the thing that got me was, like, it was funny because after it happens, and then, you know, when Okada goes for the Rainmaker and, like, Danielson's body is still, like, very still, and it isn't until he finally ducks it and then hits the knee on him. But he was too hurt to cover. I was like, oh, you know, you bastard. Like, why would you do that? And Ricardo was like, what? Or, like, I think it was one of my other friends that were like, what happened? I'm like, dude, this guy literally had to retire for, like, head and, like, brain-related injuries. He's literally spoken that he's had, you know, an issue with seizures before because of those injuries. I hate that he does this in the middle of a match to make you really worried about him. Because you're like, you get worried and you're like, please don't tell me I'm watching this happen live and like the show's gonna end, you know, because we're not supposed to be seeing this happen. But he includes that as a story element to the match, and I'm just like, why? Why would you scare me like that?
I don't know if we needed to bring the doctor in, you know?
Yeah.
But I agree with you that it's hilarious that Okada just waves him off and just goes, I don't know enough English for you to understand that. I'm just going to hit this man as hard as I can.
Yeah. And then we get that spot where he counters the German suplex and hits another knee. But it only gets a 2. I really like that one. But then we get the spot that really surprised people. And that's, they're having this back and forth. And then Danielson gets Okada into a submission. And you think it's part of the story because commentary starts highlighting. He's trying to get that label lock in, but he can't use his other arm. And you're like, oh, the story of the match must be the working over the arm. Except you see him slowly like inch it towards it. He somewhat locks it in. And then he gets a really convoluted lock in. And the biggest surprise, Okada taps out.
Yeah, it's like a cattle mutilation, I think.
Yeah, and he gets Okada.
It looks like it hurts.
Yeah, and you could tell it hurts because Okada's tap is slow, you know? Like, he can barely move his hand to tap.
But the camera's on it perfectly to capture it.
Yeah, and so I was shocked. I was like, what the heck?
I was shocked.
I was like, not only am I shocked that Okada tapped, but like that was the finish. I was like, what the heck? But
I was just like MJF, just like Sonata, just like Tony Storm. Those champions weren't going to lose their belt tonight. Okada comes in not wearing a belt, but he's got a title of Kazuchika Okada. And you just don't beat him. And you just don't beat him, Jack. But honestly, I think about the match, and I think, well, Jack, who was on the offense more often?
It really felt even to me a lot of the times, but it felt like it kind of felt like Okada had a lot more, solely because like there was all those attempts where he was just trying to get that Rainmaker in, you know? But it definitely felt like it was somewhat even, but maybe I'd give the edge to Danielson a bit.
I think watching it back, you know, when he taps, I think, you know what? He's been put actually in a few holds for a really long time, you know? And when he, you know, I just like sat there and sort of thought about it, and I thought, you know what, actually he got a lot in, you know?
Yeah.
And Okada, you know, what he got in was strong and hard, right? But he doesn't have the like submission game that Danielson was obviously leading on.
Yeah, and you know what I was fully expecting, sir?
Yeah.
I mentioned it in the end of last episode when you brought up the Stardom stuff. Looking back, this match was 27 minutes and 40 seconds according to Wikipedia.
Yeah.
That is 2 minutes and 20 seconds off from being 30 minutes, which would have been a time limit draw. So I was fully expecting this to go to a time limit draw because they didn't want either man to win. So that's why I was shocked. I was like, wait, there's a definitive finish to this match?
And it's Danielson. You know what, too? Okada can take the loss. He's going to go into the G1. He's still a beast. Maybe with something to prove. He can come back.
I saw someone say he's heading into that G1 and anyone under the age of like 27, 26 is just getting their heads knocked off. So like Umino, Kiyomiya, you know, I forget who's in the block.
They're not even in the same block, those cowards.
I couldn't believe that when they announced that block that they didn't put any of them in there. But it was like people were like, "Oh, he's gonna kill like all the young people at this point after losing to Danielson." Like, it doesn't matter if they're in the same G1 block. Like, he's gonna try and like whatever match he's in, and if like Kiyomiya's in it,
multi-man, like those multi-man undercard matches.
Yeah, you know, or like when Umino's bugging him a lot in those multi-man matches, it's like he's gonna just go off in those now after taking the loss.
Knock the dye right out of his hair.
Yeah, but I was so shocked. I was like, my goodness. And I mentioned earlier, so we'll mention it now because it was brought up at the scrum as well. It wasn't storyline. Apparently on that elbow drop, the reason I called it the changing point of the match, apparently it's what people presume to be on that elbow drop that Okada did to Danielson. It's believed that is where Danielson fractured and full on broke his forearm.
Yes.
And that's why you didn't see him using that right arm, especially with the submissions, which it makes sense. You can't really do that submission when that part is broken.
And it's crazy to think they went about 10 minutes after that, and he said in that scrum that it changed their original plan. There were things that they wanted to do that they didn't do. And somebody asked him, hey, the yes chance. You said you weren't going to do the yes chance, and you busted them out now. And he goes, I had to. It was the only thing I could do, and he could do it with one arm. What a beast.
Yeah, I thought that was crazy. And I saw so many people coming to talk from experience, and they were like, yeah, when you break it, it's like an initial shock, but then all the adrenaline kicks in and you just go. But the fact that he went 10 minutes after breaking that, so that means it was only 17 minutes into the match probably around that, like, he broke that arm, and he went 10 minutes still afterwards and, like,
and he's calling it a fracture on Sunday night in the scrum. But Brie Bella posted on Instagram that it's probably a just straight up break, huh?
Yeah, she showed the X-ray, and people were like, "Oh, it might be like a lot worse." And even if he recovers, you know, well, like they still may give him extra time to recover because of how like easily it could like break again. And to me, it breaks my heart because not only does it mean I won't be able to see Danielson on TV for about like a month, maybe even 2 months time, or potentially even more, depending how much they want to, you know, ensure his safety. Right. But also selfishly, as a wrestling fan, I have to bring this up. So people were like, why didn't they do Danielson versus Okada here? I bring it up now because we're going to flash back to last year when he wasn't able to make it and he had Claudio take his place. What did Zack Sabre Jr. say in that promo after? Oh, you know, he got angry at him for surprising him with Claudio. And he said, no, I'm not coming back to America to face you. And he didn't even say he was going to face him anywhere else. He said one specific line. The next time you want to face me, we're doing it in my backyard, which means England. So all the people that were wondering, my rebuttal to them was always, they're not going to do it here. He said his own backyard. What's his own backyard? England. Where is All In? England. I was for sure thinking it was going to be a match that hopefully happened there. But with the injury timetable, I don't know if he makes it in time for All In, which breaks my heart because I would have almost full-on bet that hopefully would have been the match.
Dang. When's All In?
Let me check. I'm pretty sure I think it's at the end of August, so I think maybe Danielson like still has a shot, but again, I don't know for sure if that's really like wise, you know, depending on how severe the injury is. All In will be August 27th, 2023.
Wow, so he like mathematically can, but
I don't know if it's the wise choice to make him come back.
Yeah. But you know what? A guy like Zack Sabre Jr. is going to stretch that arm. I was about to say, like, there's a way to work around it, but that's not his style. His style is literally break your limbs.
Yeah, especially because people would be like, oh, he could do it. You know, he worked that exhibition with Shibata. That's because Shibata was coming back from almost death, you know? Like, he has to be very careful with him. He's going to look at Danielson and be like, it's just a broken arm or forearm. I'm going to work as hard as I can. I'm going to work that arm as hard as I can. It's just a broken forearm. You aren't dead.
Goodness. Well, Jack, we come to the moment of truth. Was Sunday's event better, on par with, or worse than last year's inaugural Forbidden Door?
It's such a tough choice. I know a lot of people, they quickly write it off essentially, and they're like, oh, of course it was better, you know? But like I look at last year, and there was just like a lot of like fun moments on it, you know? Like I thought there was like a lot of good matches, a lot of fun matches. Like again, I'll always shout it out, Swerve in Our Glory versus Desperado and Kanemaru was a real fun match. Another one was that Fatal 4-Way for the inaugural All-Atlantic Championship match between Pac, Clark Connors, Miro, and Malachi Black. That was a real fun match, especially because, for me, it included such high-profile names within AEW, you know, which, you know, a thing that I'm kind of annoyed with AEW as, like, we don't see a whole lot more of just these big names being involved. Like, you wouldn't see Pac Miro and Malachi Black involved in a single match like right now because they would be too worried about protecting each guy, you know? Whereas last year they were like, just throw all three of them in there and throw the fall guy in there and Clark Connors.
Yeah.
And then there was Ospreay's match with Orange Cassidy last year. There was Claudio versus Zack Sabre Jr., the four-way IWGP World Heavyweight title match. You know, even though that's where Adam Cole got injured, so it kind of suffered a bit in the end. But, like, you know, you had some good matches there. But then again, so does this card, you know? So it's pretty tough, but I think I would slightly give the edge to this card just because of, you know, Ospreay Omega, Danielson Okada, you know, those two matches. And of course my bias for the fact that they used the final countdown for Danielson in this pay-per-view.
What a difference one song makes. Looking at the card again, right? Like I pulled up 2022's card. And I think I've got to give it to this year. Because I'll tell you what, Jon Moxley versus Tanahashi, I literally fell asleep in. It was late, you know what I mean?
I remember.
But I, like, you know, it was like it was Jon Moxley versus Tanahashi here had the same sort of, what's the word? It had the same element of danger as the MGF one, right? Yeah. And they're like, hey, let's put this one on first because we got some big old stuff coming up later. Last year they didn't have that big old stuff. The big old stuff was the AEW Championship match, which was a foregone conclusion.
Yeah, and last year was so plagued by injuries as well.
Last year was plagued by so many injuries that didn't happen this year, which I think made for a much better show. Yeah. So this year's event, you know, really beat the best matches of last year, but I'd be remiss not to say that it frustrates me greatly that this show happened and Jay White's nowhere near to be found. Juice Robinson, there's nowhere for him. Malachi Black and the House of Black. Why can't I have, Jack, on that stupid pre-show that was forever, House of Black versus House of Torture? Can I not get that? Is that too much to ask?
Versus LIJ?
Do I not deserve to be happy?
Can I not get them versus LIJ and get an interaction between Shingo Takagi and Brody King?
Wow! I hate you, Jack. Hate you now. You put that in my mind. It doesn't, and I don't have it. Oh. Where was what are they called? Where was
FTR
the people?
Oh, the Acclaimed?
Where was FTR? Where were the Acclaimed?
Yeah, it's crazy, you know, and it's like it's definitely like something that you hope that they get like not better at, but like, you know, like there's a couple of these, like you mentioned it. It's a fair point to say that like a lot of times you look at these matches and you're like, it's no offense to the competitors, but who was asking for this, you know?
Yes.
So like I definitely feel that same way where it's like there's a couple notable names that are left off, but you know, at the same time you kind of feel like, oh, maybe they're saving things for like next year, you know, because they don't want to run out too quickly. But then you don't have the guarantee that a lot of these guys are going to either, you know, be here. Like a lot of guys their contract could expire and they're not here for next year's event, or they aren't as highly built at the current moment, you know, or they're not part of the roster rotation at the time. They're not at their physical peak at the time.
Well, so, you know, we're not gonna be picky or choosy. We named this year as a superior show. Better days ahead. Jack, Will Ospreay versus Kenny Omega, Wrestle Kingdom, or Forbidden Door? Which one was better?
It's such a tough competition because I don't know. It's so tough, you know, like it was just such a spectacle for both. I may want to give the slight edge to this one despite the shenanigans.
I also want to give the edge to this one despite the shenanigans. And in spite of the shenanigans, what puts it over for me is that one in January was so heartbreaking. it was so one-sided. And Will Ospreay, it was the longest squash match anyone's ever seen, and he came out fighting so hard. Like I almost wanted to cry for the guy when it was like, all but certain that he was going to lose, right? Yeah. And it isn't until like the day after when on some podcast somebody says, Will Ospreay's carried this company on his back during the pandemic, and it's going to be nice that he gets some time off. And I go, is that what that was? Was that whole event an opportunity to write him off and give him time to heal and rest? Because I would have felt a lot better about last night if anyone had told me. But this night, Sunday night, he looked better. He was, you know what I mean? He was drawing blood. He was coming after Kenny. Coming after Canada, frustratingly, but he was just... And I loved it. It was like, I don't need your help, but I'll take that screwdriver. Bam!
Oh, man. Yeah, but definitely I think this year's show was better. I'm going to give the edge to this match. And I look forward to Forbidden Door 3 taking place in the Tokyo Dome.
Hey, let's go.
Why not? Let's give the gift to the Japanese fans,
Goodness gracious.
Could you imagine if they actually did that? That would be pretty crazy. If not, do El Paso. They had a pretty good crowd for Dynamite one time. They were alive for all 2 hours of it. So
yeah.
Give it to El Paso if you're not going to give it to Japan. Or maybe give it to California, specifically LA, so we can attend it.
I'm just saying. Crypto.com arena.
Oh, man. But, yeah, definitely was a good show. I'm hoping the best for Danielson's recovery because, similar to a lot of guys that we mentioned on the card, he's winding down a bit because of his injuries. And, I want him to take the best care of himself, not only as a person, but as a wrestler. Because, again, selfishly, there's still a lot of matches I want to see out of him before he retires.
Hey, and I was really excited about that question of the entire scrum. They asked, who else do you want to... Oh, they're going to London. They don't realize he's not going to make it. But they go, what British wrestlers do you want to fight? And he goes, forget British wrestlers. There's a bunch of wrestlers in this company I still want to fight. And he name drops like Pac, right? And he goes off on a few guys and just sort of says, hey, don't forget, we've got our own people that I want to fight. And I was like really excited to hear that because there's a guy literally looking to fight everyone on the card because you got a few other folks that are literally avoiding each other,
Yeah. Here's my plea. Within the next year, if he's healthy, there's a ton of matches I want to see out of Danielson, but there's two I want to see the most. Two that I want more than even... Or here, I'll put three. Three that I want more even than this Okada match.
Hold on. Can I guess them?
Sure.
Here we go. Buddy Matthews?
Would be like top 5 or 10. So between that range.
There's so many. Who else would you want to see? He shouted out Orange Cassidy a lot.
That would be an interesting match to see how Daniels... Especially if he's playing the heel...
Go for it. Who's your list?
I want the Zack Sabre Jr. match just because I want to see that technical display. I need to see him face Shibata.
Goodness gracious.
But that's a match that I need them to sign a thoroughly worded document about what they can't and can do to each other in that match. Because I do not need those two risking anything with each other.
I'll break your neck before you have a chance to break mine.
And 3, I've seen that he's faced them before, in the 2000s, but I need a match now between Danielson and Shingo Takagi. I need it now.
Whoa!
I want that match specifically. Because I just feel like that could be a real good one.
Yeah.
Especially when you see what guys like Suzuki and Ishii are able to pull out of Takagi when it's G1 time, It's like...
Hey, I think they invited Danielson into the G1.
Yeah, I heard... That was the one I heard from the scrum where they were like, oh, how would you feel about doing the G1? And he broke my heart when he said, I don't think I'm built for the G1 anymore. And I was like, no.
Yeah.
I was like, you should have done it when you first signed with the company. I think he was he was just coming off of injury in 2022, so I don't think he could have done it.
I'll tell you what. I think he qualifies for the best of the Super Junior, doesn't he?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Or how about this? It won't be G1, but he could do the tag league. He could find a partner to do the tag league.
He's got a few guys on his side already. Bring Claudio or Yuto or Moxley.
I'd prefer Claudio just so we could see those two in Japan. Because it was fun seeing them at Dominion.
Did you hear all the stuff they were talking on commentary about? Hey, anyone seen Claudio? Because he missed his flight.
Yeah, I saw that. Where his flight was having so many delays.
It so bad. They were like, "Hey, brother, if you can't make the town, don't make the booking." And I'm like, "Whoa."
Yeah, and I was wondering so much. I'm like, who are they gonna pull in to replace him at such a last minute thing? But he made the show.
Yeah, they just had to move the junior heavyweight title match earlier.
Yeah. Hey, he got back at commentary later in that match, though. I don't know if you caught it, but they were on the outside, and Gino was saying something, and then Claudio just looks over at him, and you just hear him suddenly go, "That shirt's too small for you."
It was exciting to get Gino back on commentary.
Yeah, but so, sir, let me ask you this: looking forward to next year's event, what? I guess 3 matches would you want the most to happen on that card?
Punk Kenta, a healthy Danielson versus Zack Sabre Jr., and House of Torture, because they're still going to be at it, and it's going to be silly, and they're never going to stop being silly with Dick Togo and Show and Evil versus House of Black. Super serious House of Black.
Oh, man. Oh, I'm trying to think. I definitely agree. In my top 3, I would want Danielson, Sabre. After that, oh man, I gotta mention it, of course. Please just give me Desperado and Swerve already 1-on-1. Can we please get that? I'm tired of the teasing of, they're in a tag match for the first year, and now they're in a multi-man match the second year. Just give it to me 1-on-1. I need that match.
You're Dave Bautista. Give me what I want.
And then the last one, oh man, I'm trying to think stylistically who could match up well with one another. Heck, give me Shibata versus Malachi Black 1-on-1. Why not?
Ooh, why not? He's gonna kick his head into the rafters.
But
here's a question, Jack. Before we wrap up, I don't know. Do you have a Switch? Do you have a game console?
Yeah.
Are you picking up Fight Forever?
I'm really debating on it, but the part that really discourages me the most is that they don't have a community creations for you to share the custom ones, because I've never been good at creating custom characters. So when it comes to the WWE games, I always love that feature where these people put in with their own time and effort, they create people who aren't in the game, and they're able to share it with all these people.
It's funny. I haven't had a wrestling game since literally No Mercy. I haven't done none of that stuff on PlayStation, right?
Yeah.
And so when they say, I heard hey, there's some bad news about Fight Forever. I go, oh, what? They go, this creation suite is garbage. And I go, oh.
So it's like the old games.
Let's go, right? Literally back to square one. And they go, oh, and you can't mod it. I'm like, okay, I'm not down with modding. So I'm still going through with this purchase.
Yeah,
there's a ton of wrestlers that aren't on it. Frustratingly, this company has a roster of 100 people, right?
Yeah. The one thing I like that they said though is that they might do I know for sure they said they're gonna do free updates a lot of times, but they're also probably gonna do DLC, and if it becomes successful, they'll likely try and do not necessarily annual releases, but they'll do more games, but this one's gonna be one that they update constantly, and a lot of the updates will be free for the community and all that. So I was like, oh, that's cool thing to do, and that's how they're gonna add more wrestlers, attires, and all that.
Yeah, everyone is spoiled with the creation suites for 2K games, but I'm interested. I'm excited, and I'm gonna pick it up. I think the graphics are funny. They're derpy, They're some of them wrestlers are done real dirty, and some of them look absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I think the funnest part that like would maybe encourage me a lot to get it is the fact that like you can hold all the titles and there's actually animations for it. And I think
Yes.
the coolest part is that like the women can get in on those titles too. So like I've seen like photos of like Riho, for example. She has the world title around her waist, and like they did one where she had like all the titles on her. And I was just like, that's such a cool feature in the game to just have like 4 belts at once.
Well, check it out, Jack. I'm going to pick it up. I'm going to play around with it. And maybe I stop by Casa de Castillo for you all to see and experience it as well.
Yeah. But with that being said, we'll finally close out here as it's getting late. If you add up the total time and remember when we record these, you'll know it's getting pretty late. So, but it's also summer, so thankfully we have more leeway, you know?
Sure do. Hey, and what do you say? Same time next week to talk about a little event called Money in the Bank?
Yeah. And funny enough, sir, I noticed it with my dad. The anniversary for the show is gonna happen on that Monday, and similar to this season, you and I are gonna kick off the new season.
You mean this our incarnation of the Rule 34 podcast started in the first week of July?
Yeah, July 3rd, right before the 4th. And you wanna know what's funny that I just thought of right now too? Guess what we kicked off this season with as well? Not only just you and I, but guess what it was?
It wasn't Money in the Bank, was it?
It was Money in the Bank that we kicked off this season. And so next season as well will be kicked off with Money in the Bank.
Serendipity. Goodness gracious. Congratulations, Jack. I mean, I think on closing another season, you probably have another episode or two. But, congratulations for keeping this up, for being consistent, and for growing as an on-air performer and presenter.
Yeah.
And someone who's organizing it, right? Scheduling, directing, posting.
Yeah. I wish the audience could really see just how much this has all grown from that very first episode I was on back with you in high school. The growth is one that I'm most proud of, especially to the point where I'm out here managing 2 now, where I'm doing my own, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm real excited for... We always make the anniversary episode the final episode, so I'm excited to close out the season, talk with Dom and Gio about it all, and definitely look forward to the new season, what plans we'll have, especially because, a little bit of spoilers for the listening audience, things are going to be a bit different because Dom's going in person to Berkeley, so scheduling is definitely going to be something that we have to really work out well with.
Got it.
Yeah, there's a lot to look forward to, and
Jack, are you going to be a senior?
No, because I took a gap year during COVID.
Okay.
So I think I'm still technically a sophomore. I think.
Really? Okay.
I think so. Dom is going to be a senior, and
he is.
I'll let you know this so that the listeners can be updated as well. Oscar is going to be a senior at Vanderbilt.
Wow. And I think Natalie Mejia is going to be a senior at UCLA as well, right?
I think so, yeah. So a lot of people are going to soon, enter that next stage of life if they... Well, usually, they're depending on how things go, depending on how, I guess you could say the overall work ethic of a student. Some can get it done in 4 years. Some, give themselves the leeway of needing a 5th year just so that they don't feel forced to cram. But for the most part, a lot of people are going to be entering the next stage of life. It's going to be exciting to see.
I didn't become a teacher, Jack. I didn't start that journey, my professional journey, till I was 26, when your brother met me. There's a lot that happened between 20 and 25, right? There's a lot that I needed to figure out and a lot of admin that I needed to get done. But it wasn't until 26 that I started this wacky journey of education.
Yeah. But so much to look forward to. And it's a short goodbye because you will see Mr. Solis and I next week when we're covering Money in the Bank. That's this Saturday. But until then, I've been Jack, joined by my guest for, the past 3 seasons of this podcast,
Mr. Solis.
Thank you all for joining for this episode, and we'll catch you on the next one.